Hey, this is Mr. Beckstrom, and today I'm going to do an example in section 3.7. This is on the chain rule, and this is similar to number 16, and this is a doozy, so get prepared. So here we are, we want to calculate the derivative of the sine to the fifth power of the cosine of 6x. Looking at it, and immediately it doesn't look like much, but it is a pretty solid problem here. So the first thing that we kind of want to notice, or that we should notice, is that if we have, for example, put this off to the side, if we have like the sine squared of x, that's really the same thing as the sine of x squared. It's just putting the squared there is just a shorthand for really squaring the side of that angle, kind of like that. So it's a little bit helpful to be able to kind of switch back and forth between those to kind of visually see. Anyways, it's helpful to me. So I'm going to go ahead and use that here just to kind of put this in a better form that I can use this chain rule. So I'm going to first start off by just kind of saying, all right, the sine of the cosine of 6x like this, and then I'm going to raise the whole thing to the fifth power like this. Once I do that, and this is really where it's helpful to use like a u substitution just to kind of see how things are laid out. If I let u equal this whole thing here, the sine of the cosine of 6x like this, then I'm in the form here of just u to the fifth, right? I'm just in the form here. I can rewrite the entire equation of u to the fifth. And then I'm in one of my chain rule formulas. So in order to apply the chain rule, I can just apply to the derivative of the outside function, which is just applying the power rule, times the derivative of the inside function, which is just the derivative of whatever u is. So that's what I'm going to do here. So in order to apply the derivative, so y prime, that's shorthand for the derivative, is equal to the derivative of the outside function, which is just applying the power rule, 5u to the fourth there like this, times the derivative of u, whatever the derivative of u is. So this is kind of the form. So now I already know what u is. U is this. So I can substitute that back in any time. Now I really just have to figure out what the derivative of u is. So that's what I'm going to do up here. So what is the derivative of u? Well, it's the derivative of this thing here. So let's go ahead and figure that out, which we're going to have to chain rule again. And it looks like it's going to be kind of a multiple chain rule again thing here. So let us go ahead and say, well, I have basically the sine of what? The sine of some, I'll use a different thing, sum of v, right? Where v is equal to the cosine of 6x. Okay. So kind of like what I did before here, I'm going to let v equal the cosine of 6x. So to apply the, let me make sure I got that right, to apply the chain rule again, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I am going to do the derivative of the outside times the derivative of the inside. So the derivative of the outside of the sine of v is just, so the derivative of u is equal to the derivative of this, the outside, which is just the cosine of v, right? The cosine of v times the derivative of v. And this is going to be equal to the cosine of v, which is just the cosine of the cosine, because the derivative of sine is cosine, the cosine of 6x, all right, times the derivative of v, and the derivative of the cosine of x is, and we're going to have to apply the chain rule again, but this time let's do it without the u substitution. So the derivative of cosine is negative sine, and the derivative of 6x is just 6. So that's just applying the chain rule in our head this time. We can say times negative 6 sine of x. All right. So now we have this being our u prime here. So we've got all of this out here for our u prime. So we know what the u prime is, and we know what the u is because we let the u be in the beginning. So now we have everything to go ahead and write this out. All right, so finally, y prime, that's going to be equal to 5 times u to the 4th. So our u is this, times the sine, and I'll go ahead and put, instead of the 4th on the outside, I'll go ahead and put the 4th back in here, kind of like they did there. The 4th of cosine of 6x, all right, and put those parentheses back in there, times u prime, which I have right here, times the cosine of the cosine of 6x, all right, times negative 6 times the sine of x. All right, and then finally, not much of this can be combined because lots of different angles except for the negative 6 and the 5. So because I am a slave to pain, I will do that. So that will be negative 30, right? 5 times negative 6, sine to the 4th, sine to the 4th, cosine 6x times the cosine of the cosine of 6x times the sine of x. And that should be it. I'll go through and make sure I didn't make any mistakes. But if you find one, let me know. But that should be the basic premise of going through this. All right. Hope you all have a great weekend. Good luck on the quiz. Thanks. Bye.